And welcome to Street Fight Politics World. And again, it's another whirlwind week, and we're going into year 4. That's Trump dog years, by the by, of the Trump second presidency. And it's the only good news is that he is so weak, and the GOP is so weak they cannot govern. So the only thing they can do is issue executive orders, not one that Trump has written. I mean, these have all been written for him, and he doesn't literally know what he's signing. But I think I'm not going to say hope, but it doesn't look like the devastating dive into the abyss that it looked like, even a week ago. I mean, Harry,
Well,
how do you feel?
It's still early days. Goodness sakes! I mean,
Oh,
I
very
think it's
English,
way
but-
too early to say it's not the dive into the abyss yet, because So the latest thing that really has piqued my attention is the fact that you've got judges, several of them, who have blocked various orders of Trump to make sure things don't happen. And you've got unelected Musk and and our vice president, whatever you want to call him, challenging the authority of judges to challenge the president. This has all the makings of a constitutional crisis, and we're powerless to do anything except watch the train wreck. So
Well,
I think it's way too early to say we haven't gone off in the abyss yet. I think we're full bore on towards the abyss.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the precipice staring down. I mean, and the thing is, I think what may tip that over is, Trump bans have already telegraphed that they're prepared to just ignore courts. Laws be damned.
That's probably the case. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forget which decision it was and which person said it. Oh, I think I do know who said it. Andrew Jackson, when he was told by the courts that he couldn't do anything, responded something to the effect that, well, when they have a police force and an army, maybe I'll pay attention to what they tell me I can't do.
Let John Marshall enforce it?
That's the one. Yes, sir. Well done. Well done.
I love me some Andrew Jackson.
Yeah,
I think he's the man he's the president we all love to hate, or maybe not. I don't know.
My favorite Andrew Jackson story is he had an African gray parrot named Polly, who had spent enough time with him. It was so foul-mouthed that it had to be removed from his funeral because it kept screaming obscenities. People in the group.
Are you saying that Andrew Jackson taught his parrot?
Can you imagine? You imagine? And the fact that one of the attempted assassinations while he was in office, I think it was Daniel Boone, grabbed the guy from behind and held him. The pistols misfired, and grabbed the guy from behind and held him while Jackson whipped him with his cane. And I thought, when you've reached a point in your life when you're being hogtied by Daniel Boone and whipped with a hickory cane by Old Hickory, you've made some unfortunate decisions in your life.
Not the least of which was testing out your firearms.
Exactly.
On a two-way rifle range. Yeah.
Sorry. I realize this isn't the history hour, but yeah.
It's okay. Look at us. We've lived history. Our combined total probably comes pretty
valid
close
point.
to
Is my audio better now, guys? Did I get that fixed?
Yes.
Really good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, Ken, I mean, you brought up something in our pregame show here, about talking about the USAID and just how much it accounts of our massive government spending.
Minuscule, it is 10 times larger than the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which apparently is a target as well.
They've gotten their emails. They're
really?
sent home. They're not coming into work.
Jeez, wow. I guess I have just been trying to understand. What's the logic? What's the plan? What is really going on here? Why would you I think they jumped on USAID to begin with. There may be some validity to the idea that USAID was investigating Starlink, and had gotten on Musk's bad side due to that. I think the fact that it was a little bit vulnerable in the sense that it kind of answered to the State Department, but not really part of the State Department, made them probably a juicy target. It's just, I don't know, if there was even a shred of truth to this idea that your real interest here is cutting government waste, why would you not start with the Pentagon? You've got an agency right there that has failed 7 audits in a row, that has never managed to get their finances in order. And I'm a defense guy. I'm not saying that, but holy cow, if your idea is to target waste, why are you starting with this? It doesn't make any sense. It's so inconsistent. And so, yeah, I actually dug into the budget and did a little math today, which pains me. But added up some of these targets, and it's minuscule. It's laughably minuscule, and and I guess what it does is calls to light the absurdity behind the whole supposed explanation behind this cutting and waste and fraud and all that nonsense. Because, on some level, whichever side of the political spectrum you're on, I think we all feel there's some waste and some in government. There's probably some fat
Spending
that
other
can be
people's
trimmed.
money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all know that there's in every organization there's some cruft that develops over time. We all have this perception. I'm sure it's true about certain people that there's a lot of government employees who don't do much. They've just got a retirement date circled on a calendar, and they're trying not to offend anybody until they get there. So we could all sort of get on board a little bit with a plausible effort and a legal effort. And those have been the two big questions for me. Why start where they are, and why not just do this legally? When you've got the courts, you got the presidency, you got both houses of Congress, you could actually pass legislation for any of this stuff.
There's what you just hit the key point. They can't pass legislation.
Trump has never had the patience, work ethic, intelligence, ability to negotiate or compromise that it would require to pass legislation. He's got that party so much in the palm of his hand, I don't even think much of that would be required. I think it would just be a matter of time. So why do we got to move so fast? And I don't think that's just like Musk's inclination. I think it's because the more time passes, the more people on both sides are going to say, the hell is this guy doing? And it's not in anybody's interest. And I think maybe they have this perception they have to get in and do a lot of this stuff quickly, or they're going to be stopped somehow.
So CBS,
I think you're exactly correct.
CBS published a poll yesterday that whether you believe it or not, the poll said what the poll said.
Sure.
And said that most Americans applaud Trump for his activity. He looks energetic. He's doing stuff. He's making things happen. And when you look at the targets that they've hit, I don't know. I would bet you that 1% of the population of the United States actually has any idea what USAID does.
I hate to be the old quote guy, but Ernest Hemingway said it's vitally important that you learn the difference between movement and progress.
Yes. But I don't. USAID is an agency that does all of its work overseas. Yeah. So it has really no friends here in the United States other than the people that it buys from, which would be the farmers, who probably don't know that it's USAID they're selling to. They're just selling to the government. I
don't know. I've read some, that a lot of farmers are getting unsettled because what has happened with that $2 to $3 billion, depending on the year, purchase that they make of grain and corn, stuff that's produced in the American flyover country, that it really stabilizes the market.
Sure.
During down year. And that's something farmers are pretty conscious of. I think there may be a little bit of growing, but what's really been interesting to me I monitor a couple of right-wing subreddits, and obviously I have some right-wing nut job friends. And they really, well, when it became clear Musk was going to attack USAID first, none of them knew what the hell it was. So they didn't know whether to be angry about it. They know foreign aid is bad. But then slowly over, and it took a period of about 5 days, I think, before the right wing propaganda mechanism had sort of equipped them with arguments and why this
Yeah,
was great and
I saw that too.
why Musk is great. But it was this growing thing. Now they're all repeating the same talking points. So unfortunately, you just get the same regurgitation out of all of them, and none of it's real. It's just crap. But anyway, I'm sorry, Harry, I interrupted you there.
No, I mean, I think they picked USAID because it didn't have a lot of allies here.
Yeah,
It wasn't going to rile up anybody and get them
right,
all mad. It
right.
made them look like they were doing something, because even though it's only 1% of the budget,
Mhm.
when you say $1 trillion, it gets people's attention.
Right.
Because most people have I'll be honest with you, I don't even know how many zeros equate to $1 trillion versus $1 billion. Is it 3 more zeros? I don't know. It
Yeah,
gets all to be funny money at that point.
right,
But
right,
most people hear that number and they think, "Oh my God, that's the entire budget," and
right.
it's not.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think they did that on purpose because they could get away with it, and
Well, and
because
that was kind of my
yeah,
point behind the post today that you were referring to, was you referring to these as percentage points.
yeah,
Let's look at, instead of just throwing, like you said, kind of largely meaningless numbers at the wall, but they sound big, and we'll add a couple of, I don't know, LGBTQ plus initiatives or something on top to let everybody throw it out. I got in a discussion with a friend who was pointing at all this, and I said, these numbers are tiny. 1.2 million to promote, I don't know, some kind of inclusiveness in sports in somewhere. And he said, why would they do this at all? And I said, because the people, who's going to work at USAID? You're not. I'm sorry, but your business majors are not aspiring to a career feeding people, starving
no,
people overseas. I used to say the same thing about when I was working, and people would say the media is not biased, and the media is not biased. The people that work there are. By and large, I was a journalism major. We were all liberals, because people who were conservative at that age were business majors. Or uh, attorney, legal. They're in law school. But the people who are there, you're liberal or liberally inclined people. So yeah, you're going to end up with some of these little side projects that are weird and probably not central to the agency's mission. I get that. And in the grand scale of the budget, these things were tiny. Minuscule, and certainly not doing any harm. But of course, the right wing propaganda machine has that. You would think, from seeing a lot of those, a lot of what they've churned out, that was what the entire budget was for. And have you seen? I love the picture of the guy with the what's the grenade launcher, the RPG,
hmm
standing in the with the USAID stuff on the wall behind him. Have you seen that one?
Mhm.
no, I haven't seen that.
So you can tell when a person has never been to the third world before. Because here's what happens: the USAID, this stuff comes in bags, and
Yeah,
it's a really good cloth. So just like in the U.S. in the Depression, people use that cloth for everything, including wallpaper,
and clothing
and
and
clothing,
curtains.
and anything. Yeah, just like in
Yeah.
the Depression in the U.S., it's a good high quality cloth that is made in the U.S. So yeah, there's a picture circulating, and it's some obviously terrorist-looking guy because he's swarthy, I guess, and he's got a RPG, and some guy behind him with an AK-47, and they're standing in a little shack or a building or something with USAID logos all over the wall behind him. And this was used to make the claim that the USAID was supporting terrorism. And I said, you've never been to the third world at all before, have you? Because that's like tent fabric and dresses and wallpaper and whatever else you can use it for. But it doesn't matter, and and you can counter that a million times now. They all believe it, and it's done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's I get exactly what you're talking about, and you're right. I mean, there's a reason why all those things are done that way, because every single bag of rice, bag of wheat, whatever, is
yeah,
a message, and it's
absolutely
meant to be a message.
right.
Anyway.
So I
Oh,
guess
by the way,
now it'll all have Chinese on the walls behind the terrace, and we'll all feel better.
well, yes, and let me just, since you brought up Chinese and farmers in the Midwest,
Yeah,
guess what major buying country, what major market has banned U.S. beef?
I would have thought Brazil, but I'm
No,
guessing
they
you're
they
towards
produce beef. China.
you will not
China-
allow the U.S. to import beef.
China banned U.S. beef last night.
Oh,
Check me on
boy.
that.
Really?
I saw that
Wow.
little flash go across the screen, and then it was time for me to go to
Wow.
bed, and I did. But I believe that to be true.
And ranchers all over Brazil and Argentina high-fived each other the second
course.
that came across the wire. Holy cow. What a boon
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean-
and Trump also just again flashed across the screen as we came on has put 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum today.
Hi, Louis.
Everywhere, universally.
How you
Hey,
doing?
Louis. What's shaking,
How
man?
you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So here we go.
Here we go.
Well, I mean, the problem with all these things that are happening is it's going to be months to really filter down and cause the harm to the farmers. Apparently, eggs going for $12 a dozen still hasn't, caused the outrage that we all thought it would.
Have you seen that bird flu is fake, by the way?
No, I haven't seen that. so-
Yes, yeah. It turns out it's all fake. It's a big hoax.
Of course.
Well, actually, the bird flu was just identified in cows and in milk, especially raw milk.
Yeah, that jump to cows and cow-to-cow transmission is bad news. That's a big deal.
Well, the humans that have gotten this bird flu, 50% death rate.
Yep, since 2003, 50% of the people who get it die. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, COVID at its worst
Right.
came no place close to that.
No, it wasn't even in the ballpark. Now, the good news is, I mean, just because I don't want to scare the crap out of anybody who might be watching, is the strain that has manifested in North America thus far has been milder than that. But the scary part is that it's a virus which has demonstrated it's very easy to mutate and jump. And when it makes that, eventually does make that mutation where it can jump from human to human, it may well reacquire some of that lethality in the process. But yeah, it turns out it's all fake. And the reason is, as I understand it, the USDA has been requiring people to slaughter healthy chickens who don't actually have bird flu in order to artificially inflate the price of eggs and make President Trump look bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
That's
well, here's
because that's realistic.
on,
Right,
a,
absolutely.
on a tangent and something we'll dive into here in a few minutes is one of the things that Trump is going after is pretty much eliminating any funding for medical research coming out of the NIH.
Mhm.
And so if you're trying to monitor the bird flu, well, along with the CDC, guess who's not able to give any information about what's going on?
Right.
Those two organizations.
Right.
Right now, the only place you can go to get any of that type of information is the American Medical Association website. And I mean, that is, just so you know, we docs look at the AMA kind of skeptically. It's like I have literally never belonged to it because it's got one president and 650 vice presidents all making at least $650,000 and above. So,
Nice.
oh, it's if you can get in, it's a great deal.
I'm in the wrong line of work, clearly.
But this is the first time I've ever seen them do anything that actually was useful. And so, they're so right now, if you want to find out anything about, measles in Texas, can't find it from the CDC. You're definitely not finding it from anything in Texas. The AMA's website.
Just let me take a quick diversion here. In the chat, you've blasted out on like 4 different platforms that you are now Doc New, to include mine. So I just want to clarify, folks. Doc Eddie is now Doc New on Facebook, not me. I'm still Harry Ramsbottom. Just so you know.
Okay. Back in Zuck's turf then.
Yeah.
Well, I literally had to invent an alias that got around, my last name, because every time I tried to sign in with my last name, it would say you are, it's like
No
can't
kidding.
get in.
I got to ask, what did you do to get banned in the first place?
He was very naughty for a very, very long time, repeatedly. This
Well,
guy got banned. This guy got banned more than dirty books in Boston. I mean,
Yeah, but the thing is I had not been banned in quite well over a year, and all those things were, getting reported by some Trumpster about something. There was no reports, no nothing. I'd been very careful, self-censoring myself, not cross any lines. I honestly, I think the thing that got me was I finally went over, well, about 7,500 Facebook, friends, followers, another 2,500 with Instagram. And the last 28 days I was alive, I had over 1 million page views. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, but it's like I was literally on my phone one day getting ready to make a post. My Facebook page went this flashing orange, and then it disappeared.
Wow.
And then I tried to find it was kind of weird. I've never seen anything like that. And so then I tried to sign back in, and it says your account has been permanently disabled. There is no appeal. And within 24 hours, it had completely disappeared.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you no longer exist. You've been depersoned.
I've been something rather. So.
Have you played around with Blue Sky any?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Blue Sky. It's it doesn't have the same reach, and
right.
I'll put stuff up there, but it's like I feel like as much as I hate Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk, for what they've done to corrupt our free speech here in this country, you still have to play where the other people are. And so right now it's like that's YouTube, and unfortunately, we're cross-posting to Facebook and some other stuff. So
it's kind of my issue with Blue Sky. I'm kind of the same way. It's a little bit of an echo chamber, and I don't really want to preach to the choir.
Yeah.
The people that I try to reach, like with my social media activity, to the extent I do it all, are and they're not even the people that engage with the post, that comment on the post. I'm not really much of a torch bearer, or with a pitchfork or whatever. I try to write
not
things.
A tiki torch guy.
And I look horrible in khakis. I could never.
We're not going to replace you, Ken. Don't worry.
Well, we cannot replace you.
But I try to just post something that will provoke a little thought in the person that is scrolling by. I very rarely get engaged in these some of those threads I post. There are people in there arguing for a week, and after a day or two, I'm like, nobody's in there that's capable of processing new information or changing their mind. There is nothing to be gained from engaging in that. It's like a sport to those guys, and they can have at it. And I just turn off the notifications for the post, and they can argue for a year in there, and it's fine.
So, I've gotten to the point where I just can't engage. If I engage on every single comment that was posted, it would be, I would be there forever.
Your account does get a lot, to tell you the truth. Yeah,
it does. I mean, I cultivated that. That was a process, and I did it as much as anything to give guys like you. And you'll notice there's an awful lot of other posters that I share their stuff on my page. If I agree with it, if I like it, or if I even just think it's interesting, I'm going to put it out there. And so that's why you have gotten on my page. You didn't do it. I ran into you from this, and I like.
Well, I have noticed that, and I appreciate it. Yeah, when there's something, it's just I think sometimes the people, especially my more left-wing friends, get a little frustrated with me sometimes because they want me to wade in there into the bare knuckle everything, and I'm kind of like, those real hardcore right-wing people that are gonna jump on everything, they're not worth talking to, and that's not the target audience. The people that are worth talking to is that group that's kind of in the middle, and they're probably just going to scroll, and maybe they'll pause a minute and read that and say, yeah, it's maybe a good point.
Well, actually, keep scrolling. Along those lines, Ken, I mean, I've been trying to target, coming back, I'm trying to reach out to millennials and especially Gen Z. Right. I think that's really the target audience, especially if you're a liberal, progressive Democrat. And I think that's the biggest failure this party had in the last election. As much as we hate to admit it, we needed people to go on to Joe Rogan and, Turd Cat, or, whatever all these other guys are to these right-wing influencers.
It's Cat Turd.
Okay, whatever.
Turd Cat.
Yeah, and we need somebody to step up that is from that age group. I mean, it's like it
Yep.
can't be me sitting there, trying to, talk to 27-year-old frat boys. It's got to be somebody from that age group that gets that type of platform that comes at it from a liberal and progressive side. And
I want to reflect on something here because I don't want to lose this point. Tina Rivera on our page brought up Musk's offer to buy OpenAI, which I got to say is inevitable, and it frightens the shit out of me.
should.
Is that it? I mean,
Yeah, it should. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like that. The only good news is he doesn't want to buy TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder why that is.
Probably because he
know.
knows just how dangerous it really is, since he's
Well,
in bed with the Chinese for all
yeah.
his businesses.
He does appear to be trying to raise some liquid capital because rumor is he's dumping Tesla stock as fast as he can get rid of it, but that may also be because Tesla has turned into kind of a dumpster fire. Their sales have crashed and burned.
Oh yeah, in
Yeah.
Europe, here,
Yeah.
pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I would say that Tesla has probably seen its day. It's lived its purpose.
Well, I mean, it's like I own an EV. I would never buy a Tesla. I mean, now if Musk was completely divorced himself, and it's actually owned by somebody sane, I'd give it another look. But
I'm with you there.
I choose where I spend my money,
Right.
and I'm not
No,
going to spend it with somebody that is antithetical to the way I look at the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could.
Well, I rode in a Tesla several times, done some cross country trips in one over the past several years, so I'm familiar with the earlier models. A friend of mine here in town just bought, I forget which brand, doesn't matter, but a General Motors EV, brand new, loves it. Took a trip in it down to Richmond the other day, came back, great car, clearly influenced by Tesla. It's easy to see that Tesla broke the ice, did a lot of things, put it out there, and now the manufacturers can go, oh yeah, I like this, I don't like that, we can do this piece better. And that's what's happening. So I think Tesla has, like I said, it's lived its purpose.
They were a necessary part in the evolution, and I'll tell you what it really was we had some electric vehicles prior to Tesla, but they were bland little smug boxes, basically Priuses, and
they were
the
basically
Nissan
gussied
Leaf.
up golf carts.
Yeah,
Right.
really, and they were designed to appeal. What Tesla did that was genuinely revolutionary, but was a required step in the evolution, was they made electric cars cool. And because they didn't focus their marketing on saving the planet or anything, it was this thing is faster than hell. And they had ludicrous speed and all the, literally a button for that. And the acceleration rate and the styling and everything. It was all about this is cool. And that was a necessary step in the evolution of getting these things more widely accepted. But unfortunately, they've pretty much failed on every promise since then. Of course, because it's a Musk company, they way overpromise, they way overcommitted. There's something like 10,000 people who have already paid for a vehicle they've been waiting on for like 7 years now, something like that. Or paid I think they put an $8,000 deposit on one of the models. I can't keep them all straight. That never happened. And there's been a lot of that, and I think they've just they built up a fanatic following and then have steadily burned it, destroyed it, wrecked it, and then the Nazi salute was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, I do think they're gone.
Well, like Musk with Twitter.
Well, the company has now been named the Swastika Company.
Have you seen any of these commercials where the people are getting in the car and the German marching music comes on and all this?
I have not.
It's pretty funny. It's the latest Tesla update, is what they call it.
Speaking of commercials, since at least 3 of us are in different markets, have you seen the one? It's a Trump commercial talking about how great Trump is, how great America is. It's it looks like an election ad, but it's not, because all it is just how wonderful we are now that Trump is our dear leader.
I saw that on Jeopardy, I think. It was sometime last week, and
I can't believe it'd be Jeopardy. There's too many intelligent people there. So.
Well, but Jeopardy, believe it, is huge, at least in this market, for those campaign commercial kind of slots. It's campaign commercials and drugs for old people.
Yeah, because it's old people. It's old people stuff.
That's the only one watching
Jeopardy, and it's old people stuff.
It may have been tragically during Wheel of Fortune. I'm not sure. It was in that block. We try to schedule dinner around Jeopardy, but occasionally we sit down and catch the end of Wheel of Fortune. So it may have been during Wheel of Fortune. Same ads, same everything. But we had the same reaction. I looked at my wife and I said, "Is somebody running for something?" Because we were so relieved. Well, the only thing we were relieved in when the election was over, that we could go back to our normal commercials for Prevagen or whatever, or some medication that has a million horrible side effects and you don't know what it does anyway. But I saw the same ad. I don't know who's responsible for that or where it's coming from, but it is a campaign ad.
Yeah.
Immediately following. Yeah. Anybody know?
That's actually part of the strategy, and I make a point here. It's like the new Democratic chairman, who has more fight in him than I initially thought he would have, has finally recognized that the far right has been running a permanent campaign for years now.
Yeah.
And so it's like he said, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be standing up basically a campaign war office that's going to operate 24/7, 365.
Yep.
And we will be looking at doing the same thing, because one of the things that we're losing, for lack of a better word, the war on is we're letting them define the message. It's like instead of responding to Hunter Biden's laptop, and they said, well, we're just not going to dignify it with a response, and instead it became the Biden for crime family, because they didn't respond to it. And he's going to at least put up a fight so that they recognize there is a news cycle. It's gotten incredibly short, and you have to have young people again that are up late at night, monitoring TikTok, Twitter, and all the other stuff that I don't want to have to monitor, and come up with responses, and have them ready to go, not days later, not even hours later, but like literally, before, some idiot on the right set gets through saying something, there's a response going out, and that's pretty much how quick you have to be.
This really is the worst timeline, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I'm in the wrong universe.
Yeah, I put in an application to go to another universe. I'm sure there's one that's a lot better than this one.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah, because that function used to be part of campaigns now. Now it just has to be part of our everyday lives.
So I was thinking of Louis on Wednesday last week. I went down on one of these, party junkets, let's round up the troops and take them all down to the Capitol for a day with our legislators, and lots of pictures and bad food later. We all go home. But there I was roaming around the Virginia State Capitol with lots of pictures of Thomas Jefferson and others. And I was thinking of Louis and him, walking up and down the corridors, talking to senators and representatives. And I'm just curious, what's the latest from your world, Louis?
It basically, the latest that we're getting from clients and people that are, in their memberships or in their circle, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. People just don't really know what to do. I mean, that's a very, very, over dramatic summary, but that's really what it is. I mean, but a lot of the, for example, these people that we deal with are like people that work with, early childhood education, or people that are directly involved with the Department of Education. People are literally thinking of leaving their jobs. A lot of uncertainty and fear is really what it comes down to. And I'm not even touching on the whole immigration stuff.
Yeah.
So it's out there.
About 3 hours ago, I had a conversation with somebody I'm working with for a placement. He's with a federal agency. I'll tell you which one in a second. And he's, career guy. done 30 years or so with the same thing,
Sure.
and he's at that sort of pinnacle of his career, senior executive service. So, definitely doing pretty damn well. Had a very successful career by any accounts, and he just so happens to be part of the FBI. And so the question is, all right, you can retire. When are you going to retire? And his answer is, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't tell you his position because that would be that
Sure.
I'm just not. But
It'd be like
but yeah, he's not even
Right.
remotely in a political position. He wasn't
Sure.
involved in any of but nonetheless, the fear in that one agency right now is crippling.
I
Another
really
thing I wanna
don't
point
want to
out-
have my security people in the FBI, CIA being fearful. That's a really bad way to approach the world.
They absolutely are. So remember we talked a couple of weeks ago about how one of the first things Trump did was fire the commandant of the Coast Guard, the head of the Coast Guard, for just kind of like made up reasons, probably because she's a she.
Right.
This past weekend, with 3 hours notice, she was evicted from her government quarters. She had been given 60 days to transition out, which is normal, find another place to live, do whatever you got to do. But somebody knocked on her door. You got 3 hours, get out. No, you can't move your stuff. We'll move that for you on our own schedule sometime later. You got to go. This is exactly how you cow the military. This is exactly how you cow law enforcement agencies, government agencies, military agencies into doing what you want them to do, because you put the fear of ruining their lives.
Well, I mean, do you see what he did today? He removed the entire boards of West Point,
Of all the service
Naval
academies.
Academy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. Just everybody gone.
Everybody gone.
Yeah. This is how you establish control. This is how you become an autocrat, when you replace everything and everybody with people who agree with you and will not challenge you.
Right.
I mentioned a while ago that one of the things that, I had just found this out, one of the things that Hitler did was, after he had gotten rid of all the generals that he didn't like in 1934, 35, 36, he then went about to essentially establish a bonus system for the generals that he did like. And as long as they towed the line and did what he wanted to do, not only did they keep their jobs, but they also got rich. They were placed on boards of companies. They were given shares of companies like the armaments industries. They were given outright cash bonuses for performance at the end of the year, something that doesn't normally happen in government. And so he essentially bought the loyalty of the senior leaders in the German military after he had gotten rid of the other ones and made everybody else afraid. You can see this happening here. You can see, I mean, you don't have to be a mind reader to see this. This is a logical conclusion of where we're going.
Well, and again, that's what's making me fearful. It's like one of the things, it's like, I'm very happy I was wrong about. There hasn't been any violence in the streets,
Right.
Yet. And it's like, I think you're going to have to get a lot further down the road to really get that. And it's like, because I think most people really aren't still engaged or paying attention.
Susie has asked a question pertinent to that. I'm just going to read it straight. Do y'all think TRICARE, OPM, VA benefits going to be disrupted? Susie, I'm going to say, I think those will be the last things to be touched, but yes, I think they will be eventually. They're too popular, like Social Security. Too popular. They would rile up way too many people way too soon if he just axed those now. But I think eventually that's going to happen. I did read, by the way, that the VA was allowed to, I read this over the weekend, the VA was allowed to go in and cordon off people, positions that they did not want to be able to take that early out. So they have some element of safety, just simply because a lot of Trump supporters rely on the VA. A lot of Trump supporters rely on TRICARE. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I rely on both of those. So, it would be crippling, I think, politically if you did that now.
When you start genuinely looking at the federal budget, and
Yeah.
there are some calculators and things online, and look at the huge portion of that which goes to Social Security, Medicare, and veterans benefits. If they want to make real substantial cuts anywhere along the lines of what they are talking about, at some point, the 0.08% of the USAID is not going to cut it. I cannot see any way that they are going to get the kind of cuts that, well, you can't take any of Trump's promises seriously. I understand that. But even the kind of cuts that Musk is talking about
Mhm.
without diving into that pool. And and I think you're right. I think there will be some political backlash. But it's kind of weird though too. The right wing monitoring their communication and the propaganda they spout. I really noticed that there are people who who are repeating the talking point now that yes, this is going to hurt the American people and inflation's going to go up and the economy's going to get bad. But you know what? They deserve it.
Yeah.
That line kind of keeps bubbling up. It's kind of weird. There's this consistent like they deserve it because they've had it too easy, because they've been buying Chinese goods, they've been going to Walmart, it's their fault that the economy is it's all messed up and we're being taken advantage of by these foreign countries. I kind of feel like, and maybe this is a little too conspiratorial for my own good, but it's laying the groundwork for fiddling with those programs. And I include veterans programs. And it would not be hard if you're on the right wing and you want to find fraud in that program, or you want to find people that are abusing veterans benefits. It wouldn't be hard. It'd be the same playbook as they've been using with the USAID, is to find some really egregious, ugly cases and make it look like the whole program's that way. And I can see them getting away with it. And I don't see any way they're going to get to their goals without tackling that to some degree.
Right. Yeah.
If his, the only reason that I think Trump truly wants to cut the budget is because he wants to at least somehow pay for the tax cuts. He's got to balance that out somehow,
Right.
At least make an attempt to do that. Right. And so I think that's where his motivation lies in cutting the budget, because I don't think he really cares about most of this other stuff. Right. But he knows he's got to at least show the folks in Congress to make it easier for them to cut the taxes that he wants cut,
right,
to show what the offset's going to be able to do that. And you're right, until he gets into the real meat and potatoes of government spending, right, which by the way is exactly what we're talking about. All of the entitlements, or if you want to call them entitlements, all of those retirement, Social Security, Medicare, all of that sort of stuff, and obviously DOD, the big kahuna. Right. He's going to have to go into there. So at some point, all of us people who rely on some sort of government check, supplemental, whatever you want to call it, that's going to go away, or at least be cut so substantially that it will be meaningless.
And again, they're cutting the meat out. It's like, if you want to go get some fat, I'll be willing to have a conversation. Do we need to ever build another aircraft carrier? Because I've talked to guys, that are placed high up in the military, and they're the battleship of 1940. They are past, they're sitting ducks. We're already pulling them back, from up close to China, or, wherever they can be hit by, a missile that instead of going 100 miles now goes 1,000 miles.
Right.
So you want to have that conversation, let's do it. Because that's a place where you can say, we need to come up with, let's fight the next war, not the one we did just before. Let's not recreate the Maginot Line. Instead,
what was the name of the guy, the Secretary of Defense under Bush and then under Obama, that he retained? Do you remember him?
Gates.
Yeah.
Gates. Did you read his book?
No,
I did not.
Outstanding book, by the way. And I recommend it for just this reason. I was shocked by the degree to which the Department of Defense does not want an awful lot of the crap. In that book, he focused specifically on main battle tanks. He doesn't want a lot of the garbage, but they get stuck with it because this tank The armor is built in this senator's district, and the engines are built in this senator's district. And I was stunned by the whole process of, and that was one of the things Gates said is if you want to improve our military, you got to keep Congress from farting with their budget. And they would have ditched. They wouldn't have so many aircraft carriers. They wouldn't have all these incredibly expensive tanks and bombers that cost $3 billion or whatever. But a lot of this is because of political meddling. So I'm with you. And if it, this is something, I hate to say this is something Trump is actually uniquely positioned to do, because he's probably the first president we've had since George Washington who is not dependent on the aid of a political party. His support, and in a weird way, this is something we should probably talk about, but it bypasses the party and goes directly to him. Most people who voted for Trump don't like their own representatives. They don't like their own senator, their own congressman. The more they squeal, the more they support Trump. They just voted Republican because it was straight ticket, and that's the one where Trump was on the top. But he actually has this unique opportunity to do things like, the example I always use is congressional term limits, which is supported by 80% of Americans. It'll never get passed by anybody except Trump could do that. And he's actually a guy who could make this budget-length thing on the DOD, this albatross, work. But that's where the cuts are going to have to happen. And maybe that isn't. Maybe that's something I could support a little bit. My concern is they're not going about it the right way. They're not going about it in a legal way.
Right.
But I'm with you. And I would, just as a side note, I would highly recommend that book to understand that budgeting process. It's really fascinating and appalling.
That's probably why I didn't read it. But that's been known for a while. There was a movie. It's actually a feature film that was made probably about 1995 about how the Bradley fighting vehicle. No, it was the Sergeant York Air Defense Vehicle.
That was one. Dan Aykroyd was the general.
Yeah, and it was a fun movie, but it was
Spies
largely
Like Us
true.
or something,
Right. Yeah.
And they just kept adding on crap,
right.
And again, all through Congress. Well, we need to have this because my district produces this thing.
Exactly.
And that happens a lot. I spent about a year and a half doing acquisition in the Army, and I got to tell you, I was never happier to get out of that assignment in my life. Afghanistan was how I got out of it. True thing. And I was doing interesting stuff, but it was just it's such a horrible, horrible process. And you're right. I agree with you. Trump is uniquely suited to do that. I don't think he has any inclination to do that except accidentally.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he's got the support of a bunch of screaming people who just want to cut things and destroy stuff. And if he were to use that judiciously, it could be a thing. I doubt it will be.
See no evidence of that thus far.
But
the collateral damage will be far out, offset any kind of benefit we might get out of it.
Well, anyway, we had a winner of our Fuck Around and Find Out award today. Trump has come out and said he wants to completely defund NIH, and NIH gives a staggering amount of money that goes into basic medical research, and it has actually been given most heavily to institutions in the Deep South. It's like, I just found out today, my Augusta institution, University of Texas Southwestern Medical School at Dallas, is going to lose $350 million in funding. Now, that institution now has 4 Nobel Prize winners from that institution that all did their work at that institution. This was not a Nobel Prize winner they bought. It was done there. In fact, I was there when Brown and Goldstein, 2 Nobel Prize winners, were doing their research on cholesterol. And if you're on a statin, I was one of the medical students that got to go around and give the early versions of it to people. So I've been there a long time.
That's
University, cool. Yeah. So you go through the entire South, and out in Oklahoma, Nebraska, some other red places that are losing, hundreds of millions of dollars per institution Well, after the Southwestern, the largest loss was University of Alabama at Birmingham, which is going to lose $300 million.
Good God.
And guess who thought that that's not a good idea? Senator Katie Britt, welcome to the club, because she got on the phone to Musk saying, hey, you can't do that to us. We didn't mean hurt us. We meant hurt the other guys. So
Yeah.
that, you need to make sure that you're not going to cut the funding to the University of Alabama, Birmingham, because that's a lot of jobs.
Well, I want to pick up on that real quick when you're finished with the point.
That
Okay. So
anyway, she won the award today.
I'm glad you got back to we wanted them to hurt, not us, because literally a week ago, I posted a news story about Canada. The headline is Canada's tariff list targets Republican states and Trump allies. My 2-word comment for the entire news article was, "Oh, Canada." I want to share my screen here real quick. There we go. All right. I think you can see it. That was a week ago. I've got 1,300 likes or reactions to it. And I'm still getting them today, and 44 shares just from Canada. And because Canada decided to do the smart thing and target their tariffs to states that supported Trump, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Because, I mean, they're not stupid. They've been playing this game for almost as long as we have as a country.
Right.
They figured out how to do it. And they're the 12th largest GDP in the world. So it's not like you're dealing with the Bahamas here, right. Or Panama or Denmark even. And some of the comments, I won't go through them obviously, but some of them are, I hope they target the Democratic states too. It's like, you idiot. That's not the point. Anyway. All right, I'll go back to our pretty faces again. You don't need to see my screen anymore. But I just thought that was hilarious.
I mean, it's like I'm hoping that they targeted Kentucky bourbon, and so I'm hoping that Canucks will stop buying it. I might be able to chance to buy some Pappy Van Winkle. So.
It's overrated. I'm not saying.
You know what? I can tell you there's a far bigger difference between a $12 bottle of booze and a $25 bottle of booze than there is between a $25 bottle of booze and a $250 bottle of booze.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the whole social thing behind expensive bottles of wine and booze and stuff like that. It's you get to say, I had this and you didn't.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. Nothing
conspicuous consumption.
Oh, yeah.
Very literally consuming.
Well, Susie, it's like I put up a comment that her daughter has a severe genetic disease. Ouch. And, that research they're doing into that is dependent on the NIH. So, Susie, I share your concern. I'm sure that I know that there's been, something already filed to stop that because, if we had the idiot Katie Britt, woke up enough to see that, this is bad for me, that, there's other people that are going to be, that are going to recognize that this is a disaster.
I just want to point out that Katie Britt is the one who came on the TV after Biden's State of the Union with the fundy baby voice. Oh, the poor little babies are going to die with all of this. So, yeah, I love the fact that she got the FAFA award. Yeah. Nice job, Katie. That's on you.
Sheesh. I spoke with a construction executive here in North Carolina over the weekend, who's an old friend and a big Trump supporter, who is now struggling to finish multi-million dollar housing projects with 20% of the workforce showing up every day. And yeah, who could have predicted?
How did they vote?
And if he voted for Trump. If there's an ICE raid within 100 miles of Charlotte, North Carolina, every single one of those is going to grind to a halt. And companies are going to go out of business. Companies are going to crash. There is a lot of money and a lot of contracts.
And then on top of that, the 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, which of course nobody used for construction, right?
Bingo. Well, and that is going to hammer them because it's replacement costs that you end up that tariff is not going to take 3 months to kick in. Now we think, well, they'll have to exhaust what they got. No, they start jacking up the prices right away because they have to pay the higher cost to replace the stock that they are selling to you right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, between those two things, and look, there's nothing in these contracts that allows that requires the client to pay more because there's a tariff now, or requires the client to delay the end date for that project because your workforce is scared to death of getting deported.
Arrested.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you that I'm seeing that in my practice. I mean, since the day Trump got elected, there is not a day that I'm not in the OR that we're not
Really?
having at least 1 or 2 patients not show up. They won't answer their phone.
Right. Yep.
And literally they're just disappearing. And, I've been hearing, from some people that have reconnected with me on Facebook that people are sick and will not go to the hospital because they don't want to take a chance that La Migra is going to be there and pick them up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Well,
real,
guys,
it's a real fear. Yeah.
We have been at it for almost an hour.
Wow, how
Goodness
that
Time
gracious.
flies, man.
Yeah, that went right by.
It was a good show. I don't know if anybody else liked it, but we've got some people out there commenting on it.
And one thing about the circus, it's generating a lot of content.
That's
well, let me
I've
say
got more
something.
content than I know what to do with.
Exactly.
I'm sorry,
That's
go
the
ahead, Ed.
That's the problem.
Well, as far as the people listening with us and still here, if you've got anything that you want us to talk about, please, go to Street Fight Politics on Facebook, leave us a message. We'd love to, be talking about the things that, you want to hear about. Between the 4 of us, we, have our fingers out in a lot of different directions and sort of interact with, a lot of parts of the economy. But, if you've got something of concern like Susie, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. And so we'll be coming back to that as time goes on. But, please give us a like, please subscribe to us.
It would be good to have some suggestions because, as I'm sure people have noticed, if left to our own devices, we will gravitate towards bourbon at some point in the conversation. I'm not sure how that keeps happening.
Hey, Sean, I mean, it's like we'll come back to, Elon and his little Nazi youth corps of programmers the next time.
What a holy cow.
Actually, let's just talk about it now. I mean, it's
unbelievable. It is. Just
I mean, these guys are like 18, 19. The old man is 24.
And you look up incels in the encyclopedia or on Wikipedia or something.
They're all there.
Oh my God. It's like they're straight out of Central Casting. It's like
I feel like I should just take $10,000 and round up a bunch of hookers in DC and just say, guys, here you go. Like that scene in The Dirty Dozen where the night before the raid they bring in the hookers from town.
I used to say that if there was actually a revolution or of Trump supporters, that you could diffuse the whole situation by announcing a 2-for-1 deal at Golden Corral. But yeah, I think you're onto something with the hooker situation. In DC, it's a very different bench. They're not going to respond to Golden Corral, but get some Hooters girls in there.
Well, there's definitely hookers in downtown DC. I mean, there's no shortage of that.
I'm sure there are.
It's not like you don't have to import. There's no tariffs on that.
Vegas
you could go down and pick them up in a cyber truck.
All right, I have to go, gentlemen.
At that point,
I tell you what, Sean, we will come back to that next week because that's probably a whole show. So everybody, thank you for being with us. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you listening and tuning in. And we'll be coming up with some more stuff to talk about next week.
Thanks,
so
everybody.
Let's until then. Bye-bye, guys.